Kenny Cunningham, good morning.
Morning, lads.
How are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm all good. Considering I'm only out of my bed about 2.5 minutes, I'm all right.
You sound like you're still in bed, actually.
Now, far more professional than that, John.
Yeah, is he, Michael? Do you think he does sound a little bit gingerly this morning?
No, he's given the impression that he's good to go. He could be still in bed, but it doesn't matter. He's given the impression that he's good to go anyway.
It's interesting.
Always.
It's interesting you're not on the video Skype. But what did you make of Liverpool last night, Kenny? I mean, what can possibly go wrong? We're into the new year. They have a game in hand. They're 13 points clear. Man City aren't even second in the table. It's game over, isn't it?
It is game over, and it really has been for I'd say a couple of weeks now, John. I didn't watch the game last night, to be honest with you. I didn't have to. I was watching the film with the young fella.
What did you watch?
I didn't feel the need to kind of race down the stairs and clear everybody out of the sitting room, put on the telly, and and the wonder that could Liverpool, is this going to be the year? It's done, and it has been really since that kind of Leicester and those Wolves games, which came a quick succession, John, at the end of December. That's pretty much it for me, to put it to bed. So the question for me now really going forward is not obviously if they're going to win it, is by how much really they're going to win it. And I think that is important, John, because for me, Liverpool have an opportunity now to do something really extraordinary, and it's not winning the league title. Mm-hmm. Like I said, for me, that's done. It's really how they manage their season between now and the end of May, and I'm thinking in particular now Champions League. Because all the talk, understandably, around Liverpool first half of the season has been the league title. Can they do it? I always felt they would. They were strong enough and they would go and do it. So it won't be surprised if they do. But the surprise is how far they've got themselves ahead at this point of the season. And I just think there's an opportunity now for Liverpool between now and by the time that Champions League starts up again in February to actually extend their lead and extend the lead over probably the only team who could make any. People might make an argument who could beat them, Manchester City. If they can get that lead to 15, 20 points by the time, at least, close to 20 points by the time Champions League starts up in February, well, Liverpool will almost have the luxury then of kind of refocusing away from the league title, nobody will be saying it, towards that Champions League and actually regaining that Champions League and making this season, which was going to be an extraordinary one anyway, in terms of Super Club World Cup and that cherished league title into a pretty extraordinary one by actually having the opportunity to retain their Champions League, which for me is looking more feasible as the weeks go on. And actually looking at the performances at Liverpool, particularly Leicester performance over Christmas, they actually went up a notch, John, which is hugely encouraging for Liverpool supporters going into the second half of the season now. And as good as they are, there's actually a little bit more to come second half of the season.
Yeah, they're obviously in FA Cup action at the weekend, as are Tottenham, who play Middlesbrough, and that brings us on to Robbie Keane being obviously part of the Middlesbrough backroom team, and Troy Parrott, who is at least potentially or in theory in line to replace Harry Kane, who got injured on New Year's Day. Where do you see the Parrott situation working out at Tottenham? Or we have Son coming back in as well. As Mourinho going to look for a quick fix with a player coming in, or will he give Parrott some game time?
I'd imagine he'll get some game time, John, but I don't think Troy will be his go-to man. I think Son will be the one he'll turn to, not as a quick fix. I genuinely think Son can play in that position. And I actually think there's an argument for saying when Son plays in that position ahead of Harry Kane, he actually gives Tottenham a totally different dynamic as kind of mobility, his ability kind of to run in behind, stretch teams down the side, beat people in 1v1 situations. I think it actually helps Tottenham in some respects. So although I'd never say that Tottenham are strengthened with Harry Kane out of the team, the kind of positions they're in at the moment, like team performances haven't been great. Actually bringing Son into the team, that centre-forward position, I think will actually help him. And unfortunately for Troy, he just maybe might have to be content with a couple of cameo performances. You could argue maybe the FA Cup would be a great chance to start them, but I just feel as if there's a certain amount of pressure on Mourinho at the moment, a few little grumbles coming out of Tottenham in terms of that initial little bounce suddenly has been lost. The kind of the issues prior to Pochettino's departure from the club are kind of bubbling to the surface again. So I think every game at the moment is important for Tottenham and Mourinho in particular, and that just might go against Troy at the moment. He just might have to be patient and just take any amount of minutes he can get off the bench.
Yeah, there's a few notable fixtures, I suppose, primarily Liverpool and Everton on Sunday. What sort of interest will Liverpool have in the competition, do you think? And given that they're probably home and hose in the league, they could win the Champions League. The Cup is obviously easier to win than the Champions League, or at least it should be. Is it something that Klopp will be keen on winning, do you think, given that he kind of abandoned the League Cup this year?
It definitely won't be his priority. It's as simple as that, Johnny. And like league without a doubt, we know how important that is. But for me, Champions League again is not far behind that. And like I said, I just feel they've been so good first half of the season. They put themselves in such a great position. They very well may have the luxury second half of the season of actually targeting Champions League ahead of the league title. So when those big league games come Saturday and Champions League Tuesday, where if Liverpool were going into those games, Johnny, generally would have maybe 3-4 point lead in the league with a Champions League fixture coming up, generally speaking, the mindset at Anfield this season, the demand from the Liverpool supporters would be, it's all about the Holy Grail, the Championship. I'm sure the focus would be on the league. You put your strongest 11 out. Liverpool could very well have the luxury going into those games of actually targeting Champions League and let it go home and away and whoever comes down the road, and actually targeting those games and prioritising them as opposed to the remaining league fixtures. You mentioned the FA Cup. I don't think he'll totally disregard the tournament in terms of putting like the youth team out again, but clearly he's going to rotate his squad of players as well, give everybody game time, keep everybody happy, keep a happy camp, but his priority, without a doubt, 100%, will be those league fixtures. A couple of tricky ones coming up in January and obviously February, March, but that Champions League now, more so than ever, there's been no real talk about the Champions League in terms of retention of the Champions League trophy, Johnny, but that's going to grow and grow as the second half of the season as we eat into it, because there's no team better suited to go on and win this competition again than the make-up of this Liverpool team in terms of their ability to hurt teams in possession of the football and also soak up pressure and be a good sound defensive unit and just have that ability to kind of grind out results that they have been all season. That's the kind of DNA that you need to go and win the Champions League. So, yeah, there's not more to say really in terms of Liverpool. They've never been in a better position.
I suppose just if you were to make the case for the contrarian argument here, Liverpool have played in the Premier League this year in which Man United have been crap for the greater part. Spurs have been miles off it. Arsenal have been rubbish around mid-table. Man City haven't been at their best. When they played in Europe against teams that were able to match up with them, notably Napoli, they disappointed a bit. So is Europe going to give us maybe a truer indication of where Liverpool are at, albeit in what could be a record-breaking season?
No, you're absolutely right, John. In terms of their general level of performance, this is what I've been saying first half of the season. I don't think Liverpool have been at their best. And you're right, those frailties have been exposed more so in the Champions League football because of the quality that they're up against. If they were to maintain that same level of performance second half of the season, you're right, I think they'd probably come unstuck somewhere. But for me, there's indications there that Liverpool are looking stronger. Joe Gomez has come back into the team of late alongside Van Dijk at centre-half, the strongest central defensive pairing. That makes them stronger. It's been no surprise that the majority of Liverpool's clean sheets this season that have come in December, I'm thinking Wolves, Leicester, Salzburg, Watford, last night against Sheffield United. That was a struggle for them so far this season, John. But Henderson coming back into the team, that holding midfield position. Fabinho out, Henderson in that holding midfield position with those two lads in behind him has made them more defensively secure. For me, that's an absolute fact. So there's the improvement already. So if they can add a little bit more in terms of like performance levels, 10-15% second half of the season, I don't think they have to do a huge amount of more from an attacking point of view, such as the quality they have sprinkled across the top line, the quality from their fullbacks. And yes, they have to keep certain key players fit. That will certainly be a help. That's the case with any team. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the level of performance has to improve. But I'm already seeing that improvement of late in the Liverpool team, and keep those players fit in key areas of the pitch for me. Gomez at centre-half, Henderson that holding midfield position, not that number 8 role which Lallana said, his flexibility, he can play in an advanced midfield position. Of course he can, and yes, Fabinho can come back in. He's a very good player, big fan of Klopp's. But for me, not as defensive secure as Henderson. And for me, the clean sheets in December for Liverpool are a testament to the fact of Henderson's presence, patrolling in front of those two centre-halves, and Gomez back in alongside Van Dijk at centre-half.
Just before you go, the back of the Irish Daily Star today, an interesting story by Paul Lennon. Mick McCarthy and his Ireland staff may be asked to forego or cut their Euro 2020 bonus should the boys in green qualify. And it says last weekend Minister for Sport Shane Ross said he would welcome any move by McCarthy to cut his current $1 million per year salary in order to help out the FAI. Now, McCarthy's salary is a legacy of the exalted fees that Irish managers were paid going back to Trapattoni and so forth. But put yourself in Mick McCarthy's shoes here, Kenny, because this is a tricky one for him. He's entitled to his contract, but at the same time his employer is broke.
Yeah, it is a very delicate one for Mick. I think there has been a drop-off in terms of Mick's wage, Johnny. £1 million seems a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but in comparison to what's been paid previously, you go back to Giovanni Trapattoni and the previous manager, Martin O'Neill. I think I saw a figure of about €26 million in terms of what was paid out during their time. I mean, the fact we actually paid a cheque out, I think it was £3 million to Martin and his staff when they actually left the job not too long ago. That was talk about rubbing salt into the wound. And you're right, in terms of the amount of money we've paid, I know there's been involvement with Dennis O'Brien the last few years, the amount of money we've paid to managers and the support staff prior to actually Mick taking over, for me, is absolutely obscene. A country the size of ours to be paying managers wages in comparison to the top 5 managers in the world is absolutely ridiculous. There's absolutely no need for it. We need to pay a good wage to our manager and support staff, absolutely. But it has to be manageable, and for me, that's nowhere near the exorbitant sums of money that we've been paying out the past couple of years. I think there has been a drop-off in terms of Mick coming in. Going forward, might that have to be reduced again? That may well be the case. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But if you ask me, Mick's contract at the moment, having already agreed the contract, I think that's a difficult situation. Now, Mick's only contracted till the summer. There's an issue there about the bonuses. I think that's a fair argument, but it's a difficult one for Mick. I've a little bit of sympathy for him, but I don't think it's not about Mick. For me, it's about long term going forward. There should be an amount of money there in the pot, Johnny, going forward for potential Irish managers of the future. I know Stephen's coming in again. His contract's agreeing. That won't be an issue. That won't be an exorbitant sum of money that's been paid to Stephen either. But there should be a pot of money wherever it is. $750,000, $500,000 to the senior Irish international manager and his support staff, everybody included, and that's the figure. No matter who it is who comes in, who sits down to talk about the job of the Irish senior manager, that's the agreed sum of money that's paid to the Irish international manager. And if any prospective Irish manager isn't happy with it and feels he wants more, he shouldn't even walk through the door and sit down and have a conversation with the Irish FA. It should be a realistic figure, and for me that's been absolutely just hasn't been the case over the past kind of 10 years. It's been absolutely exorbitant. So I know it's a contentious issue at the moment, highly sensitive in terms of the association, what's happened, but I think it's a fair point in terms of everybody's got to look in terms of money that's been paid out. Everybody's got to take stock. And I understand there'll be mention of kind of mixed contracts there, but at least it's coming back towards a figure which I think most people will be comfortable with in terms of money being paid to the Irish senior international manager.
Thanks for your time, Kenny.
No problem, chaps.